While Chapter 9 gave us a general guideline for human resources at a management level perspective, Chapter 16 really focuses on store management tasks and the role of a store manager. In most cases, especially for larger retailers, the store manager has decision-making power over most of the administrative tasks, especially from a local market perspective, in addition to the store manager tasks. So if you remember those tasks that we talked about in Chapter 9, we're going to focus on how the store manager does his tasks and also deals with some of the administrative tasks. But there are really two important assets in retailing, employees and real estate, and both of those are in control of the local store manager. So Chapter 16 focuses primarily on employees, and we're going to talk about labor productivity and performance. Employees are retail assets, and so the store manager has to do a lot of tasks in association with the employees. It's normally their job to recruit and select employees, to socialize and train new employees, to motivate employees, to evaluate employees, and to compensate and reward our employees. So we're going to walk through a lot of these tasks. Now, a lot of these tasks follow guidelines set at a corporate or national level, but it's up to the store manager to implement these tasks. So let's first start by talking about training our new employees. So once the store manager has put out the job description, done the interview process, and hired that employee, how do we socialize them and train them into the methods of the store? There's a couple different types of programs that retailers use to train their employees. The first being a structured program. This structured program helps new employees acquire basic skills and knowledge. So a lot of what it goes over is your company policies, how to operate the cash registers. There's usually coverage of basic selling and stocking skills in a type of structured program. Generally, these happen in a classroom, but they can happen online as well. A couple benefits of a structured training program is that there's much greater consistency. A lot of what's done in the classroom is done in a group setting. You have a person hired to train. Some of these happen online where there's actually video programs that new employees watch, and so they are very consistent because every employee is seeing the same thing. Because of the consistency here and the way that these programs are structured, they often lead to a lower cost for a retailer to implement. A second type of training that a lot of retailers do is on-the-job training. And this happens when new employees work very specific jobs under the direct supervision of a manager or a long-term store associate in charge of training. This is great because it allows the employees to practice interacting with the merchandise and the customers. It really gives the new employee, the employee who is being trained, a chance to make and learn from mistakes. One of the biggest deterrents from retailers employing on-the-job training is that it is very costly in the form of time. If you have a manager or a training supervisor constantly working with every new employee, that takes away from the time that they need to do their own jobs. And then, of course, there is a blended approach, which is a combination of the above two. And this is, most retailers use some type of blended approach when they're doing their training, and it's up to the individual retailer to determine what can be taught in a structured program in the classroom setting or an online setting, and what needs to be done on the job. How can we actually teach the employee hands-on how to do some of the tasks that happen day to day. All right, and that covers our training discussion. We're now going to talk about how we motivate our employees. It's up to the individual manager to set goals for individual employees, and it's also the role of the store manager to provide feedback for their employees. So just like any goal that we set, anytime, we are trying to set goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And in doing that, you're giving your employees a very specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goal. A very smart goal for them to actually work to achieve in the store. We find that employee effort increases when employees feel that their efforts will enable them to achieve their goals set by their store manager. Employees also increase their effort when they know that they're going to receive rewards if they achieve their goal or go above or beyond their goal. So setting these goals and setting them up front is beneficial for both the store associate in that they know what they need to do, and the store manager in that they can measure and actually evaluate the employee on how well they did those tasks. So when it comes to evaluating our employees, so this is, we've motivated them, we've set goals for them. Now, how do we evaluate them? And the evaluation is done by the direct supervisor of the employee. Generally, the store manager handles all employee evaluations in a retail setting. If an employee is new on the job, then oftentimes these reviews or evaluations are done semi-annually. After employees have been at the retailer for a longer period of time, evaluations become yearly. Now, evaluations are only meaningful if the employee knows what they're required to do. Right, so a lot of times retailers will set those specific goals. So this is a great chart that I pulled from your book for you to reference, and it talks about some of those performance measures that we've already mentioned this semester. Right, look at our sales per hours. If you can look at other store-specific metrics such as the average amount per transaction. Look at customer appointments or merchandise presentation. There's lots of ways you can evaluate their employees and set goals for them. And so if you have this average performance number in place and the employee knows it beforehand, when you go to evaluate them, you can see what errors that they do well on, or what areas they do well on, and what areas need work on for future. All right, so let's talk about rewarding those employees. Every employee is going to want a different reward. And it's very difficult to let employees choose what rewards they get, but a retailer should offer many options or programs for rewards that their employees can get. There's two general categories of rewards that your book goes into, extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards. When we talk about intrinsic rewards, these are rewards that employees personally get from doing their job well. So it's the personal satisfaction. So you motivate employees because they want to do well. So salespeople enjoy a challenge, right? They love getting paid, but maybe they also really love interacting with people. If you think about a bagger at Kroger, an intrinsic reward for that person might be being able to help an elderly customer to her car and load her groceries, his or her groceries. So that is really the personal satisfaction you get from doing your job. Now, your extrinsic rewards are rewards provided by the firm. So these can come in the form of compensation. They can come in the form of promotion or recognition. So when we talk about compensation, we're going to go into that, but that's extra money, right? So whether you reward the employee with a cash bonus, an extra day off, additional benefits, that would all be a type of compensation that you're giving the employee, which is an extrinsic reward. A promotion in the company or recognition, a award or your name on a bulletin board. Those are extrinsic rewards that retailers often give their employee to reward them for meeting or achieving their goals. All right, we're going to talk about compensation next. So we're going to keep going down that task list that retail store managers are responsible for. Our compensation, this is one of the extrinsic rewards that retailers offer their employees. And the objective of a compensation program is to attract and retain good employees and motivate them to execute our retail strategy. There are three different types of compensation that we're going to talk about. The first being a straight salary compensation. What happens in a straight salary compensation? Salespeople receive a fixed amount for each hour, week, or year that they work. So if you see an employee who's given $12 per hour or $60,000 per year, that's a straight salary. And you use straight salary when most of that employee's time is spent on service rather than sales. And generally, you could also use straight salary if there's a long sales cycle for products. An advantage of straight salary compensation is that it's really easy for the retailer to manage. All right, we're going to talk about straight commission next. In a straight commission type of setting, employees are paid, they're given a percentage of the sales that they bring into the business. And this is really to reward employees on the basis of their productivity. So the more that the salesperson does, the more money they get paid. Employees or retailers use straight commission when their goal is to increase volume and control costs. And so you'll reward every employee based on the amount that they are selling. Salary plus commission is just a combination of the two that we just talked about. A lot of commission plans will include a base salary per week. You'll get a base salary and then you'll get paid a percentage of everything that you sell. And so oftentimes retailers use salary plus commission when they need to reward behaviors that support the overall strategy. The big deal here is that the plan must be adaptable. And the employees must know that it's adaptable, and the adaptability generally comes on the commission side of the compensation rather than the base salary. Now let's talk about a couple of advantages and disadvantages. So like we already mentioned with straight salary, it's very easy for a retailer to manage a straight salary compensation plan. And there's a lot of greater flexibility that the retailer has to assign different people to different roles in the store. A disadvantage is that straight salary lacks the incentives necessary to motivate the employee to improve their productivity. If the employee isn't going to get paid for each additional item that they sell, they might not focus on selling high volume products. Another disadvantage is that there's a fixed cost regardless of sales. So whether the employee sells 1 shirt or 100 shirts, you're paying them the same amount. Straight commission and salary plus commission have the same set of advantages and disadvantages. An advantage is that commission is a very, very powerful motivator. If you are paying every employee per the number of items they sell, they're generally going to be motivated to sell more. There are a lot more disadvantages to the commission plans than to the straight salary plans. One disadvantage is just answer the question, who's going to stock the shelves? Who's going to wipe down the counters? Who's going to mop the floors? If every employee is focused on selling the products to get a percentage of that sale, you're going to lose a lot of the other tasks that you need employees to do. This can also lead to poor customer service. I'm sure you've been in a retail setting where you've had a very pushy associate who's just trying to sell you an expensive product or the best product or the top of the line product so that they can get a better commission. Commission generally does not develop loyalty among your employees. Salespeople will leave for the highest commission. If you are selling the same type of product and the employee has a general knowledge base on that product, they will jump from retailer to retailer until they can find the one who pays the best commission. So those are just a few of the walking through the tasks that retail store managers often have to do when working with employees.